The house smells faintly of coffee and old paper. Evening light slants through the blinds and paints the kitchen table in stripes where the unopened mail lies, a mortgage statement, a letter from an investment advisor, a brochure for a course you meant to take. You sit there, hands warm around a mug that has gone lukewarm, and feel the familiar fog, the same loop of questions that has kept you paused for months. Which opportunity is safe? What if I choose wrong? What if this is the moment that breaks everything? I just don't know, you confess aloud, more to yourself than anyone else. Your partner, folding a newspaper in the armchair, offers the gentle, worried refrain, maybe wait a little longer. When things feel clearer, that well-intentioned hesitation lands like a weight. Inside you, a dream flickers, an idea of freedom, a plan postponed, an old promise to yourself, and it shivers at the edges because it senses your uncertainty. This is the call to adventure, not a thunderous event, but a quiet crisis of conviction. It arrives as a longing that refuses to be ignored and as opportunities slipping past because your voice, your energy, speaks doubt. Uncertainty repels. Certainty attracts. Imagine, for a moment, the difference if you could stand up from that table with a single, steady knowing, a clear vision of where you want money to support your life, and a small, decisive next step already in motion. The room would change. Conversations would change. Offers would shift toward you like iron to a magnet. Listen, I have walked this road with many midlife souls, men and women between 35 and 65 whose lives are rich in wisdom but tangled in hesitation. In the quiet that follows your admission, I offer a promise. There are practical rituals we can use to rewire expectation and align your energy with certainty. If this resonates, tap the like, you'll help others find this light too. Tell me, right now, where do you feel unsure about money? Stay with me. In the next moments we'll craft the first clarity ritual, a single, visible vision that begins to change not only your choices, but the way opportunity finds you. You find yourself at the kitchen table again, late afternoon light pooling across the bills and a half-drunk cup of coffee. The hero in this story, someone who has weathered careers, family seasons, and the slow erosion of postponed plans, lets out a breath that feels like surrender. I don't know where to put my money, you hear yourself say, not to anyone in particular. The house hums with ordinary life, but inside there is a fog. Should I invest, hold, hire help, or wait for a safer moment that never comes? I sit opposite you in that warm light, steady as an old oak. Certainty begins where your vision is clean, I say. It's not a lecture but an offering. Together we sketch a small altar of clarity, a single-sheet vision, no more than a sentence, describing one financial outcome as if it's already true. You write, hesitantly at first, I negotiate confidently and secure steady returns, and feel the words settle like stones in a river, diverting its flow. The trials arrive almost immediately, not as grand storms but as tempting shortcuts and small hesitations. A phone rings with an investment pitch that promises quick wins. Your knees want to wobble, the old scarcity voice insists on safety and paralysis. I coach you, test the certainty through ritual. Morning 5-minute affirmations anchored to breath. A tiny weekly win, a call you make to negotiate a bill, a meeting where you state a price and hold it. The first time you assert a figure, your mouth tightens. What if they say no, you murmur. I smile. Then you learn the truth faster. Certainty isn't arrogance, it's a habit of showing up and listening to results. We walk into a negotiation room together, real light, the scrape of chairs, the brief panic and then the surprising hush when you speak with calm conviction. People respond to the signal of someone who knows what they want. Money stops being a fickle guest and starts to sit at your table. The transformation is subtle at first, faster decisions, kinder internal dialogue, offers that feel aligned rather than desperate. Where are you still hesitant with money? If this scene lands, give it a like and stay with me. There is a next step where we turn these small rituals into a daily architecture of certainty, and I will show you how to make it unreversibly yours. The kitchen light hummed as he sat with a mug cooling between his palms, spreadsheets open like old maps, numbers that once promised freedom now felt like riddles. Across the table, a stack of unopened mail leaned like small monuments to indecision. I should know what to do, he muttered, voice rough with years of postponed choices. I sat beside him, not with answers but with a steady cadence. Certainty isn't a thought you wait for, I said. It's a practice you choose. We stepped into the late afternoon street together, a city folding into gold, and he told me about the last negotiation, how his throat had tightened and he'd offered a concession before the other person had finished speaking. They took the softness, he said. We replayed it, scene by scene, the conference room, the polite smiles, the heartbeat that rushed whenever it was his turn to name a number. I asked him to do something simple, define, in one sentence, the outcome he wanted from the next conversation. He blinked. I want to leave with an agreement that respects my value. It sounded fragile, then whole. We practiced the small rituals there, 3 breaths, a compact vision statement spoken aloud, a physical anchor, a ring he slid to the base of his finger each time he committed to a choice. Make certainty a muscle, I coached, start with tiny representatives. The next morning he made a micro investment he had previously postponed. The amount wasn't transformational, the act was. When the first notification arrived confirming the transfer, he smiled like someone who'd found a key under a doormat. Later, facing a vendor about a home improvement quote, the old script rose, hesitation, lowering the price, offering too many concessions. He felt the familiar flutter, reached for the ring, breathed, and said, with a new steadiness, I'll proceed at the price we discussed. The vendor's smile shifted, the tone of the room changed. Certainty changed the energy of those words, and money responded with an ease he hadn't expected. These are not magic tricks, just repeated commitments that retrain expectation. Where in your finances are you still uncertain? If you find value in practicing clarity with me, consider staying close. In the next segment we'll take these small victories and thread them into a decisive conversation that reshapes not just numbers, but how the world responds to you. The kitchen light was low, rain tapped the window like a metronome keeping time with his heartbeat. He sat with a stack of envelopes and a laptop open to a blinking brokerage account, the cursor a tiny judgment. I sat opposite him, steady as an anchor. You feel stuck because you're listening to probabilities, I said. Certainty is not a prediction. It's a posture. He rubbed his temple. But what if I choose wrong? His voice carried the weight of postponed holidays, of mortgage conversations avoided for years. We began with a small ritual. I handed him a blank sheet and a pen. Describe one clear scene where money serves you, not chases you, I instructed. He closed his eyes, and slowly words appeared, a quiet morning without debt notices, a confident yes at a negotiation table, a daughter accepted into college without loans. The details came alive, the smell of coffee, the sunlight on the porch, the precise tone of his voice when he said yes. Hold that scene like a fact, I said. You will anchor it. Our next trial was practice, not fantasy. We staged a conversation he had been avoiding, a negotiation with a client who always asked for discounts. I played the client. He stood, straightened his shoulders, and tried a new script, I value my work, and this is my price. The first attempt wavered, the second found a firmness he hadn't used in years. Even the way his fingers rested on the table changed. He left the room with a trembling laugh, surprised at how real his courage felt. Each small victory was logged, a $5 automatic transfer into savings, an email sent to request a meeting, a firm no to an unnecessary expense. These were not dramatic leaps but deliberate beats that rewired expectation. With every action, the fog thinned, certainty moved from wishful thinking to muscle memory. That night, he stood before the mirror and spoke his commitment out loud, I choose certainty. I act as if I already possess it. The word settled into him like a new garment. Outside, the rain eased and somewhere a car door closed, an echo of movement in the world. Where in your financial life could you begin such a ritual? If this resonates, give it a quiet like and stay with me or subscribe to keep building this certainty together as we step into what answers next. The kitchen light is soft at 6 a.m., steam curling from a chipped mug as the hero sets a worn notebook on the table. Outside, the street is quiet. Inside, a restless mind has begun its gentle unraveling. I watch them trace a pen across the page, no grand plans yet, just 3 precise sentences, the number they want to see in their account, the feeling of waking without worry, and one small action to take before noon. Say it like you already have it, I suggest, and they murmur the words aloud, testing the cadence. The sound settles them, certainty makes the body steady. We build rituals in quiet moments. The first is vision made specific, a single, measurable image that fits in the pocket of a day, a savings figure, a paid-off bill, a calmly negotiated meeting. The second is repetition, small, repeatable victories that wire belief into habit. They begin by setting aside $5 after a coffee, then 10 after a sale, celebrating the ledger with a single checkmark. Each checkmark is a pulse of proof. The third is voice, practicing concise, affirmative language until it becomes the tone of their decisions. I choose X, they say to the mirror, posture shifted, shoulders back. Confidence changes the timbre of their ask, it alters the energy of their offer. There are scenes of messy courage. A phone call to a stubborn client becomes a revelation. Instead of rambling, they state terms, pause, and listen. The client responds differently when met with calm certainty. At the bank, they name a figure without apology. At home, a spouse notices the shift, the way the hero no longer replays every what if. You seem different, the spouse says. The hero smiles, surprised by how real it feels to be trusted by themselves. These practices are not mystical tricks, they are rewiring exercises. We anchor a new expectation by stacking small wins, by making decisions with a voice that leaves no room for bargaining with doubt. Money, I remind them, responds to the vibration of certainty. Where do you still hesitate when it comes to money? Share that thought below, and if you want to keep walking, subscribe to receive the next steps. With a clearer inner signal humming, the hero prepares for an outward test, a negotiation that will reveal whether this new certainty holds in the marketplace. The kitchen light slices through morning fog as he spreads a handful of bills across the table like a map of past hesitations. I watch him breathe, the old habit of shrinking away from decisions playing on his face. I don't even know where to start, he admits, voice low. I sit across from him, steady as a lighthouse, and ask him to close his eyes and speak one clear sentence about what he wants money to do for his life. He fumbles, then finds a single sharp image, a reopened art studio, sunlight on canvases. That image is the hinge. We begin small and ritualized. Every evening he writes one specific next action, no vague hopes, only the next measurable step, then folds the paper and places it in a jar labeled certainty. The first night he writes, call the landlord about the lease. The next morning his fingers tremble before the call. I coach him through a brief script, a single sentence of confidence, I'm committed to reopening this studio and would like to discuss terms. He says it, and his voice surprises him, calm, practiced, present. The landlord responds with a pause, then a workable counteroffer. Small victory. The jar grows heavier with paper and momentum. We rehearse decisive language together, not maybe later but I will and I choose. In a coached mock negotiation he practices speaking value instead of apology. My work brings X to clients, my value aligns with this rate. His shoulders drop into a new posture, certainty shifts his energy. The world answers in kind, emails arrive with clearer timelines, a prospective client listens all the way through, an advisor offers a simpler plan. Money does not rush in like a lottery win, it drifts toward the frequency of his certainty, nudged by aligned steps. At night he tucks the jar under his lamp and smiles, there is a rhythm now, a daily proof that decisions create movement. I ask, gently, where you feel that fog in your own finances, in investments, in pricing your worth, in asking for a raise. If this scene stirs something, press like and stay with the practice. There is one decisive threshold ahead, a test that will ask him to hold certainty when stakes rise, and that is where the true transformation begins. You sit at the kitchen table while late afternoon light slants across unpaid bills and a half-filled notebook. The phone buzzes, an opportunity, a call from a potential partner, and your chest tightens. I sit across from you, not as a teacher but as a steadying presence. Name the outcome as if you already have it, I say. You test the words aloud, I will close this partnership with confidence. The sound of your own voice shifts something. It is smaller at first, like a seedling pushing through soil, then firmer as breath follows intention. We move through small rituals you can repeat every morning. You make a clear vision, a single sentence that anchors your day. You choose daily micro wins, sending that message, setting a price, saying no to an uncertain deal. Each tiny victory rewires expectation. I watch you practice a negotiation in the living room, pacing, then stopping to soften your shoulders and speak with deliberate clarity. The first run trembles, the third is steady. Your hands stop fidgeting. Your words stop apologizing. Outside, rain drums on the car as you drive to meet the client. The city feels different now, less like a maze and more like a market where signals are received and returned. You enter the cafe with a quiet certainty that turns heads not because of loudness but because it carries weight. The client tests you, you answer with chosen language, "This is what I propose," rather than "I think." They pause. Dialogue becomes a river instead of a debate. Offers tighten. Deadlines align. Inside you, something else shifts, the old map of scarcity phrase at the edges. When doubt creeps in, you pull out the notebook and read yesterday's micro wins. Each line is proof. A ritual of gratitude follows. You name 3 things that moved toward you that day, no matter how small. This trains your inner compass to notice flow instead of famine. Where do you still lack certainty financially? As you consider that question, know you are not alone, and if you'd like a weekly guide through these rituals, subscribe and we'll practice them together. Ahead lies a sharper test, a negotiation where what you believe will decide not only the deal, but how you see your future. He wakes before dawn, the house still soft with sleep, and for the first time the fog doesn't feel endless. In the kitchen, steam from the kettle curls like an answering breath as he opens his notebook and paints a clear picture, the number he needs, the feeling of balance in his account, the sound of decisive yes when offers come. I watch him place a small coin on the page, his anchor, and he closes his fist around it, as if locking certainty into his body. "Say it out loud," I tell him. He inhales, posture steady, and speaks, "I choose this. I am prepared. I will act." His voice lands different in the quiet room, calmer, firmer. Days become rituals. He rehearses negotiation lines in the car, practices a 5-minute posture of confidence by the window, and keeps a ledger of tiny wins, a call returned, a freelance quote accepted, a saved expense. Each small victory is logged, not as luck but as evidence. When doubt creeps, an old, familiar voice whispering, "What if you fail?" He counters with facts, the ledger, the rehearsed words, the coin in his palm. "You're changing the energy," I say. He laughs, half skeptical, half relieved. "Feels like I'm changing my spine," he replies. The tests arrive like they always do, a hesitant investor, a price pushed down, an unexpected expense. But now he enters negotiations with a rhythm scripted in his body, steady shoulders, measured tone, an offer framed as value, not plea. Across the table, the tone shifts. The investor, once impatient, leans in. "Tell me more," she says. He names the numbers cleanly, breathes, and when the answer is no, he pivots, offering options, leaving space, and opportunities appear where once there were dead ends. You can almost see certainty as a kind of light, subtle but undeniable, emanating from him, changing the rooms he walks into. He still feels fear, it shows up in small tremors in his hands. But fear no longer dictates the outcome. It becomes information, not authority. If this moment resonates, like, and tell me, where do you still lack certainty financially? Subscribe and stay with us, because soon the real proving ground arrives, and everything he's built will be tested in a single, decisive conversation. The room is quiet but charged, the late afternoon light cutting across the kitchen table where a scatter of papers once felt like a storm and now reads like a map. You sit there, palms warm from the certain-to-breath ritual we practiced, inhale a definitive, exhale the tug of doubt. On the table a single sheet holds a clear vision, numbers that serve a life, not a ledger that demands your life. You run your finger along the line that marks a small, repeatable win, today's micro-investment, the phone call you promised yourself, the email with a single, confident sentence. I'm prepared to commit, you say aloud, and even the house seems to lean in. Later, in a sunlit conference room, the tone shifts. The banker, used to hesitation, mirrors you differently now. When you state your terms, measured, unafraid, she nods and moves from obstacle to ally. That's clear, she says. You feel the old tightness in your throat dissolve because clarity is no longer a performance, it's an honest signal. Across the table your presence does the pulling. Offers arrive rephrased, windows open that were previously closed. Money, in these moments, is not a fickle wind but a current that follows the direction you set. At home, the transformation is small but undeniable. Your partner watches the change, how you say no to unnecessary risks and yes to aligned opportunities. You sound like yourself again, they observe, and you realize certainty has returned a voice you thought belonged to someone younger, braver. You begin to anchor these successes, one firm decision each morning, a tangible proof of progress midweek, a brief celebration at night. These rituals rewire expectation into habit and habit into magnetism. This is not magic that lands overnight, it is practice that changes the nervous system. Each decisive word, each anchored victory, rewrites your financial narrative so that abundance is predictable, not accidental. If this resonates, a simple like helps others find this path. Where do you still feel unsure about money? Share that with me, and stay with me for the next part, where we meet the proof of this change and turn these small rituals into a daily system you can use from tomorrow. You stand at the window again, the same city visible but somehow different, the light sharper, details clearer. In the quiet that follows the storm of doubt, you remember the small rituals that began to reshape everything, the daily 5-minute vision where you described not just numbers but the feeling of having enough, the tiny wins you recorded on a sticky note and celebrated as if they were trophies, the practice of saying I decide before every financial choice. Those were not tricks. They were rewiring. They turned hesitation into a steady heartbeat of certainty. In the kitchen, over a cup of coffee, your partner asks, "Are we ready to talk to the advisor?" And you answer with a steady voice that surprises even you. "Yes. I know what we want and how we'll get there." The words land differently now, the tone invites respect. At the negotiation table later, the other side leans in, unconsciously matching your certainty. Deals stop sounding like risks and start sounding like shared possibilities. Money doesn't rush in like a storm, it arrives like people gathering around a clear fire, drawn to the warmth of conviction. Remember the moment of decision when you chose one small, decisive step, transferring a small amount into an investment, saying no to a tempting but misaligned expense, asking for what you deserved in a meeting. That pivot was the proof that certainty is both an inner state and an energetic signal. Each aligned action compounded, expectations shifted, and opportunities began to appear in patterns you could predict. You stopped hoping and started orchestrating. This is the return, not as someone who has everything, but as someone who knows how to invite it. Take what worked, a vision setting, daily anchors, decisive language, and make them part of your life. Where in your finances does uncertainty still whisper? Name it aloud tonight and make one small, irrefutable decision about it tomorrow. If you want guided practices, real examples you can use this week, and gentle accountability as you build certainty, join this community and subscribe. Let's keep walking this path together, step by steady step.